This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. With more properties for sale than anywhere else, we make it easier.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at what's happening in the property market this weekend. Across the country, there'll be 1,852 auctions. That's up 67% year on year. In Sydney, there'll be 587 auctions. Regional New South Wales will have 132 auctions. Melbourne will have 624 auctions, with Victoria having another 27. Brisbane will have 122 auctions scheduled, with another 138 around the Sunshine State. In Adelaide, there'll be 121 auctions, and Canberra will have 77 auctions. On to the most viewed properties going to auction this weekend, and topping the list is 68 Hurtle Street, West Croydon in South Australia. You can see it here. It has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and 5 car spaces on 695 square metres. It's a mix of old world character with contemporary upgrades and features. Next on the list is 22 Royal Avenue, Adelaide, also South Australia. It was originally built in the early 1900s but was ravaged by fire 5 years ago. Since then, it's been restored and renovated with modern finishes. In third place, we have 8 Jousting Place, Glen Waverley in Victoria, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and 2 car spaces. That one has a price guide of between $1.2 and $1.32 million. In fourth is 156A Oakley Road, Carnegie in Victoria. It has 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom and a price guide of between $950,000 and $1.02 million. Last spot, we have 73 Lilliker Road, Montmorency, also in Victoria. Features 4 bedrooms, 3 designer bathrooms and an open plan living area with a gas log fire. You can see it there. Has a price guide of between $1.2 and $1.3 million. Top listing this week's a little different. It's the opportunity to not only buy a home, but also a pub and the potential to build a whole town. Coopers Creek is situated along the Thompson River in Victoria's hinterland. It's a former township and mine that was settled in the 1860s during the Victorian gold rush. Population of the town back then was about 250 people. It's a few hours drive east of Melbourne and just a 15-minute drive from Rawson. The property comes with 2 buildings. The first is a charming historical pub which features a pool room, dining area, stage and 3 open fireplaces. It's also a pub grub ready with a commercial kitchen and a walk-in fridge. The original pub burnt down in the 1990s and was rebuilt, so it may look old, but this pub is actually only 22 years old. Up the hill is a separate character-filled 2-bedroom home with a veranda and endless views. Coopers Creek sits on 11 acres, comes with 21 titles, which opens up the opportunity for development. Perhaps even a small town could be built there. The area is the perfect holiday destination. It's a favourite for the 4-wheel drive community, hikers and kayakers. In the past, it's even hosted some music festivals at the site. Price guide, it's between $2.5 and $3 million. Well, let's bring in our next guest, Paul Ryan, economist at PropTrack. Paul, thanks for coming on the program today. Let's start with the number of auctions this weekend, about 1,900. Historically, is that pretty strong for winter?
Yeah, we see there's fewer kind of listings in winter, and this year's no different. So we saw about 12% fewer listings in July than we did in June this year. But this is actually a pretty strong winter. So we've had about 6.5% more listings in July this year than we had last year. And that's being met with pretty strong buyer demand still. Like sellers are listing these properties into kind of 50% more potential buyers than we saw before the pandemic.
Yeah, so in general, sales listings down a little bit. How confident are sellers feeling at the moment? Are they putting lots of properties on the market right now?
Yeah, that's the trend we're seeing. We're seeing still solid increases in listing activity across the country, despite the interest rate increases that we've seen from the RBA over the past 4 months. Now, sellers can be confident. We've seen lots of selling activity, not as much as we saw earlier in the year, but still this is a solid year for activity.
And what about the auction clearance rates? How low are they getting at the moment?
Yeah, we've seen auction clearance rates slide a bit. In Sydney and Melbourne, they've dropped to about 50%. Now, it's clear that the interest rate increases from the RBA, 175 basis point of increases, which is the sharpest increase in rates we've seen since 1994, is clearly affecting the market. And you can see that in auction clearance rates. You can see that in prices. We're seeing across the country, almost all markets now are seeing price falls. Having said that, the price rises we've seen over the past couple of years have been very substantial. So some kind of moderation in price was maybe not unexpected.
Yeah, with those clearance rates around 50% mark in some of the major capital cities, does that mean there's a lot of buying opportunities in those places right now where people could actually get a pretty good deal?
Oh, I absolutely think that's the case. There's kind of more available listings on the market than we've seen for a couple of years now. There's a bit of a divergence though. So if you're looking in Sydney and Melbourne and Canberra, there's about as many properties on the market as the decade average. But if you're in Brisbane or Adelaide, things are still really tight and there really aren't many things to choose from. So it depends where you are. But yeah, it's a good time for buyers at the moment, I think.
And are you starting to see a lot more homes selling before the auctions even occurred?
Yeah, that's part of the story with auction clearance rates falling. I think sellers are looking to kind of lock in sales now rather than kind of go to those really, really aggressive auction conditions that we saw maybe middle of last year, end of last year. It's taking longer to sell properties. So part of the reason why there's more stock on the market is that it's taking longer for buyers and sellers to kind of come together and agree on a price. And I think the main reason for that is all this uncertainty about how high borrowing costs are going to rise across the rest of this year.
And Paul, really quickly, let's just talk rental markets. How tight is it at the moment?
Rental markets are extremely tight. I've got a lot of sympathy for renters at the moment. There's about 30% less rentals on the market than we saw prior to the pandemic. Now, originally that was a regional story. We've seen regional rents up more than 10% over the past 10 years. Sorry, the last year. But increasingly, that's a capital city story. We've seen rental growth in capital cities over the past quarter grow really strongly, above 2%. And that's a big resurgence of cities story. We've seen cities open up, immigration return, face-to-face university be back. So really, there's kind of all rental markets now are really tight for renters.
Well, Paul Ryan, economist at PropTrack, thanks for coming on the program today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.